I'm not just a professor of political philosophy at Penn. Let me tell you something. That's all a bunch of poppy seed, baby. Listen to my wife, all right? She's a doctor. I sent it to my cream of wheat this morning. Highbrow, lowbrow, intermediate, make believe we're all collegiate soon. To do the raccoon. Come on, man.
Really means is a broad-based contraction in the economy. And even if that number is negative, we are not in a recession now.
And certainly, in terms of the technical definition, it's not a recession.
From a guy with a music degree.
Considers a much broader spectrum of data points.
Oh,
the idea
sure.
that 2 quarters of negative GDP growth is a technical definition of a recession is wrong.
If things are going so great, though, then why is it the White House officials are trying to redefine recession?
No, we're not redefining recession.
Oh, no.
We all understand a recession to be 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth in a row, and then you have White House officials go up here and say, no, that's not what a recession is. It's something else. How is that not redefining recession?
Black is white, up is down.
Sir and Chancellor Farabee, thank you for joining us. And for families across the country,
There goes Joe. Whoa, 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 put on the brakes, put on the brakes. Welcome, welcome, boys and girls, children all ages, hoofties, pufties, bung-eyed, heifer, right and left wing, wackos, woodchucks, and chickettes, kings and queens of the Northeast Kingdom, to another version of It's News to Us, and little dogs too. And get down. We're not ready for you yet. You are watching, where are we? Who are we? You're watching.
Hold on. I got to make a change real quick. This will take no time at all.
Shut up.
Okay, now we go.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. You're watching It's News to Us. We're Newport's oldest TV news. Newport, Vermont, that is. So watch us now. Here now, brown cow, as locals say, with adult themes and adult language. So you're advised. Not really, but every now and then one does slip up. Beware the Bronze Age invisible sky god is going to beat you and forgive you and beat you and forgive you, just like Job in the Old Testament. And here's our commander-in-chief. We got a couple of good clips this week with him in it. One is a meme, and it was just a meme on the internet of Joe at this dedication or something, and he just walks away from the mic when his wife starts talking. And so they put some ice cream truck music on it, and so it looks like he's walking towards the ice cream truck music. And I think it was the New York Times or the Washington, they fact-checked it. It's like it was a meme. It was a joke, you fools. But here he is right here. There's our commander-in-chief, or our cadaver-in-chief, if you please. That's right. And defund the police? No, we're going to defend the cops, This BLM crap is over. And you just sit, Missy, and behave. Why can't you be more like Max? See, he's sound asleep. Oh, and they're having hearings as we speak. And there he is. Fauci won't be there, though. Nobody's seen him. Have you seen this man? It's a silver alert. Call the 800 number if you've seen him. And, okay, what do we got for news that isn't news? Oh, there's Trump filed a 252-page complaint versus CNN. It's great. It's great. And Hunter Thompson, Hunter Biden's emails. He came out and said, "I'm in effing business with the chief spy of friggin' China." It's insane. It's insane. And Biden had a 2-hour call with China. And they said, well, did you bring up the lab leak theory or anything like that? Of course not. They're not going to bring up the lab leak theory. You know why? Because Fauci, we paid for it, okay? And the Chinese aren't going to say, look, we're just doing what you told us to do. We run a lab. You give us money. We run lab. Because Obama canceled these risky projects in the United States because the labs were screwing up left and right, and we were in danger of the stuff getting loose here. So what did Fauci do when Obama made it illegal in 2014? Fauci subcontracted it to China, the Ukraine, stuff like that. Because in a global economy, it wouldn't spread from one country to the other. Oh no! And Fauci was convinced that it was okay, that we needed to do it. And, and speaking of which, you know about Alzheimer's, right, Todd?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, everybody does. Well, it turns out, we've mentioned this before, that there's something like over 50% of the new and approved drugs that they've come out for, recently, within the past 20 years or whatever, when they try to replicate the findings from the drug companies, they can't replicate them. It's like, it's almost like the research was dummied up to get the drugs approved. Well, it's turning out that way with Alzheimer's now, and all the Alzheimer's drugs seem to be suspect. And you talk about attorney generals, this is how important local attorney generals are. When the Canadian truckers, you remember when the Canadian truckers went on strike last year and just clogged up the Capitol in Ottawa, Todd?
Yeah.
They, a bunch of people started sending them money through GoFundMe. And GoFundMe just turned around and said, no, we're not going to give the money to the truckers because Justin Trudeau said we shouldn't do it. So we're going to turn around and give the money to charity. Well, luckily, which is illegal, luckily a bunch of state attorney generals got together in the United States and said, hey, this is a violation of your terms and your contract. You can't do that. These people donated to the truckers. It's got to go to the truckers. So, it's important who you have for your state attorney generals. And they filed state fraud charges. It's very important. Oh, and you remember the old days when Joe took office? But when Biden came into office, now this, mind you, this is post-pandemic. When Biden came into office, growth was at 6%, inflation was at 2%. 2%, okay? And Joe comes in, canceled the pipelines, shut the refineries, switch more to ethanol. Stella, get out of there. Get out of there. Stella, come here. Come here. And now we've got this stupid, the Inflation something Act, the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. This is crazy. I hope we can get to it in a minute. $850 billion in new spending, $750 billion in new taxes, hundreds and hundreds more IRS agents. I saw this girl on, what the hell was it, the Greg Gutfeld show last night, this black girl, and she was saying, Biden came out last year and said, well, black and Latino businessmen, they don't have access to attorneys and accountants and stuff like that, And so what are you going to do? You're going to sick the IRS on these black and minority-owned businesses, and they're going to be the ones to suffer because they can't afford to fight the IRS. It's like you're going to hurt the very people you supposedly care about. And, and our Navy last year. You talk about our Navy. The Bonhomme Richard, which was named after the ship that was named after Ben Franklin. It was the French had a ship named Bonhomme Richard. What was that? Poor Richard's Almanac. So they called it the Bonhomme Richard. And our Bonhomme Richard, brand new ship, burned. It was at dock, okay, in San Diego, I think. It burned right down to the waterline because our naval personnel weren't properly trained in firefighting. And also, last year, or this year, one of our expensive Navy fighter jets was just blown right off the deck of an aircraft carrier. Okay then, no problem. No problem. And Biden had also increased the money supply 40% in 2 years. No wonder why we got inflation. Hey, stop that. What the hell you think you're doing? So you increase them, it's like 50%. That means that, if you increase it by 50%, that means all the money in circulation is worth 50% less. This is insane, man. And they're going to spend money to stop it? It's crazy, man. And then they want to cancel student loans. There's over 12 Congress people, like the Squad and AOC and these guys. They've got student loans, and they want us to pay off their student loans. So they're going to be voting on something. Yeah, sure, right? No problem. Johns Hopkins came out with a study that showed the lockdowns didn't work. Will you get down? And they just approved another $550 million to the Ukraine, Toddster. We have no idea. We have no audits or anything, no inspector general. We have no idea where these money or weapons are going. Yet we're just going to flood the Ukraine with weapons and hope they don't get on the black market. After we just left $85 billion worth of equipment in Afghanistan. No problem. Absolutely no problem there. And it's crazy. Oh, and with the vaccines too, I'm not saying that there's any problem with the vaccines, but there's been a 5 to 10% rise in all-cause deaths in the vaccinated countries. Now, mind you, it doesn't sound like much, 5 to 10%. Well, the normal all-cause deaths are like 1 to 2%. But in the vaccinated countries, we're running 5 to 10% rise in all-cause deaths. And it appears to be ineffective at best, too. And there are studies supposedly now showing that the impact at the cellular level, it stays in the body longer than expected, and their own research proved this out. They say, you put it in your arm and it stays in your arm. You're right. Well, I guess it didn't, okay? And it appears to interfere with a broad spectrum of immune responses to COVID, and it causes fewer antibodies to fight the new variants. In case reports, there's links to other conditions are showing up too, not just myocarditis, but autoimmune disorders, including type 1 diabetes. And you can see that study, the diabetes study, at www.pubmed.gov, pubmed.gov. They say that it potentially causes or worsens diabetes, boys and girls. And merely stating the potential risk existed and was not disclosed or understood. It's a devastating blow to public confidence. And Twitter is now deleting accounts to anyone who posts the basic data on vaccine safety. Yeah, nothing like censorship in a free society, huh? Like the Ukraine, it's a democracy, except that he's outlawed any competing parties and he's taken over all the radio and TV stations in the country. That's my idea of a democracy, isn't it yours, Todd?
Absolutely.
No opposition. Hey, works great if you can get it. Oh, in Vermont news, too, Governor Phil Snott, a.k.a. Governor Pickle Nose, or a.k.a. Injun Phil Scott, he just named Jennifer Morrison as the head of the Department of Public Safety. Now, mind you, will you just sit? Mind you, this is the same Jennifer Morrison when she was head of the Colchester Police Department. She took over in 2013, and in 2015, suddenly their evidence department was missing 1,300 doses of heroin, all kinds of assorted pills and other drugs, 11 plus guns, most that have never been recovered, $12,229 in cash. And they busted a detective, Tyler Kinney, because they caught him registering a car for his boy toy. Mind you, he was married with like 3 kids. But he registered a car for his boy toy. And I guess he was selling and giving the drugs to his boy toy also. So they had a report. Jennifer Morrison says, "I'm accountable for the performance of this agency." Well, she should have been fired. The report, they had an independent report from the state police or some other investigators. They found that mismanagement or indifference. Many cases, many or most all of the drug cases were dropped because every one of the all the evidence in the drug cases was now suspect. And let's see, the chief before her was a guy named Charles Kirker. He was there for 34 years. There was a lack of proper response to citizens' complaints because people had been complaining about this detective and his boy toy for years. And Jennifer Morrison did nothing. Let's see. There was a complaint against him from a veteran cop, another complaint against him from a retired detective, and a Colchester cop complained about him when he was caught with his thumb on the scale weighing some weed in the evidence room or something. I guess he took the weed. Get down, Missy. And Yeah, it's just crazy. All the complaints were not followed through. Tyler Kinney cleaned out the old locked mailboxes for the evidence. There were no records. And Jennifer Morrison says, oh, we're not going to look at the past. It's all about moving forward, don't you know? So in Vermont, the more you fail, the higher up the ladder you go, boys and girls. No problem there. No problem. Oh, man. They're starting to use this mRNA stuff. Now, mind you, they're not sure what the effects of this stuff are, but they're going to use it in 15 different supposed vaccines. And Google's come out with an AlphaFold living software. And they call these mRNA stuff hacking the software of life, and they're proud of it. They're proud of it. Here, sit here. Just sit here in your little dog chair. Sit in your dog chair and behave, okay? You just sit in your dog chair. Look at yourself in the monitor. See yourself there? Look, see yourself in the monitor? Sit. Jack Russells, they're a little crazy. They usually calm down after the first year or two, but pound for pound, they are the most incredible killer dogs on the planet. You would not want a 90-pound Jack Russell, trust me. It would make your life a living hell.
Killer dogs, does that mean they can attack?
Pardon me?
Killer dogs, does that mean they can attack?
Yeah. I got my mother one. Her Doberman died. Now, mind you, it was this elderly couple. My mom had this giant-ass Doberman. The thing would take up like 90% of the couch. My mother stuffed it into a little corner of the couch while the dog sprawled out all over it. So anyways, the Doberman finally died, and it was when that show Fraser was on TV. And I said, you know what? I said, let's check out a Jack Russell puppy for Grammy. Well, we got one, and it was just the most incredible little dog I have ever seen. And so we got Grammy one, and I've been hooked on Jack Russells ever since. Oh, and get this. There's Lee Camp. If you go to Lee Camp's website, you can see about a 14-minute video by him about who owns the world. And it turns out that the BlackRock private equity, a.k.a. Larry Fink, hoy, an Irishman, BlackRock has BlackRock and Vanguard, they both have interests in each other. I think BlackRock controls Vanguard, but through their private equity firm, they control over 1,600 corporate conglomerates, all the big banks. They have $259 billion globally in fossil fuels. They're the world's largest investor. They own $5.7 billion of Boeing, $2.7 billion of General Dynamics, $4.6 billion of Lockheed Martin, $2.6 billion of Northrop Grumman, $6 billion of Raytheon. And you wonder why war is such a big business, boys and girls, and so profitable? No bid contracts, anyone? They've been invested using Aladdin software. They bought Merrill Lynch, Barclays, J.P. Morgan, Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. To some degree, they're the largest shareholder in the Australian Commonwealth Bank. Pension funds, Blackstone. They own Blackstone, which is a realty group. They're called their subsidiaries called Invitation Homes, where they buy up single-family homes and turn them into rentals. And they wonder why rent's going up across the country. They own 5% or more of these companies. They've got their fingers in every one of the media companies and social media too. We're talking Disney, Comcast, Apple, Google, Twitter, Meta, and Vanguard I've already mentioned. And you want to talk about a recession? Look at Walmart's sales figures in their report. They're saying that more people are buying quarts of milk because they can't even afford gallons of milk anymore. And this is what happened. We've seen this during the Carter administration, okay? What happens is they devalue the money, and then it never goes back up. They say, well, you know, if you measured inflation by the 1970s formula, inflation would be up over 20%. Well, they use a different formula now. They say it's 10%. So we're talking 20%. And then they'll say, well, we'll give you a Social Security increase of maybe 3%. So what does that mean? It means you get screwed out of 17% of your income right off the top. And every one of the working people, too. It's crazy, man. And this war, this damn war in the Ukraine, they sent Kamala Harris over there last year to dangle NATO membership in front of them, even though we promised the Russians we would never, ever let Ukraine join NATO. Yet they go over there and dangle the NATO membership over there. And Joe Biden even says, they asked him about, well, what happens if Russia invades Ukraine? And Biden comes out and says, well, it depends if it's a limited incursion or not. Oh, so it's okay for him to gobble up a chunk of the eastern Ukraine, of the Donbass. Joe won't mind then. It's like, these people are insane. You know, they paid off Hunter when he worked for the Ukraine, and I guess that money stuck. It worked out great. No, you got to sit in your chair. Can you sit there? Can you sit there? Sit. Will you sit, you brain-dead mofo? You will not sit. You will not stay still.
Don't sit, Ubu, don't.
Yeah, don't sit, boo-boo. Don't. Oh, yeah. So hopefully we'll get down to the nitty-gritty when the Democrats lose control and they can get what the hell is Tony Fauci in there. Oh, and this is the Epoch Times from this week. It's a weekly paper, and it's good because it's a real newspaper like real newspapers used to be. You know, like long-form articles and stuff like that. And they got a great web presence. You can see their stuff at epochtimes.com on the interweb. Yes, stay, boo-boo, stay. This one's Behind the Global War on Farming. And it's crazy, man. It's crazy. There's an article in here about, see what happened. They're taking over farms. We told you about this ESG scores, where they're rating loans, and like BlackRock. They won't invest in your country or whatever unless you have a high ESG score, which stands for environmental, social, and governance, right? But it's just crazy, man. So they've gone after, they went into Sri Lanka. They said, oh, let me get to this. Let's see. This is the Sri Lankan guy. Will you get your little dog nose off of there? Oh, we got the brain-eating amoeba back in the pond water now. Get your butt down there. Yeah, Colombo, Sri Lanka. This is what he said. This is former president of Sri Lanka, Gotabaya Rajapaksa. He said, banning chemical fertilizers and pesticides has created opportunities for innovation and investment into organic agriculture that will be healthier and more sustainable in the future. Well, unfortunately, what it did was it lowered crop yields to something like 10 to 20%. People wind up starving. They have no export money, and bang. Next thing you know, they're rioting in the streets. And it's failed. It's failed. The whole thing's failed. The UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, often referred to as Agenda 2030, were adopted in 2015 by the UN and its member states as a guide to transforming our world. It's a master plan for humanity and a global declaration of independence. And the 17 goals include 169 targets involving every facet of the economy and life in general. You can see this at the UN's website. These people are crazy. We're going to let some whiz-ant, dinky countries in Africa and the Caribbean and Latin America tell the rest of us what to do. It's crazy. Eleanor Roosevelt would be spinning in her grave. All countries and all stakeholders, when they say stakeholders, that means we're the steak and they get to pound us, okay? The stakeholders and collaborative partnerships will implement this plan. No one will be left behind. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah. Using government to transform all economic activity is a crucial part of the SDGs, with Goal 12 demanding sustainable consumption and production patterns. This is Stalin stuff, man. This is a planned economy. This is craziness. I mean, it worked so well for Russia, the USSR, that they collapsed after 60 years. Yeah, the World Economic Partnership, the World Economic Forum. That would be Klaus Schwab. We told you about him. So it's crazy. It's coming to Canada. Mind you, it's already coming to Canada. All right, they started it in the Netherlands, and the Dutch farmers started going nuts and blocking the highways. And yet the agenda is spreading rapidly. Canadian federal authorities last week announced similar restrictions on fertilizers and nitrogen after restrictions on energy production were put into place, sparking outrage from officials and farmers, provincial officials. Energy restrictions, like Biden canceling pipelines and new leases and the drilling in the Anwar. So Biden's actually doing what the UN has told him to. This is craziness, man. And Ireland and the UK and other European nations, they're also working to slash ag production under sustainability programs. Global elites and governments, transnational organizations, corporate boardrooms are so caught up in their climate virtue signaling that they're slow to notice that they're completely detached from reality. This is insane. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink wants to impose his values on companies and countries using other people's money. This is their great reset. We told you about this before. I won't go into it again. What other news have we got? Oh, yeah. U.S. Army announced it approved 20 permanent religious exemptions, even though 8,000 were requested for to not take the vaccine. And monkeypox, they just renamed it to queerkypox because it looks like the the queers, or the gays, or gay men. What do they call it? MSM. Men who have sex with men are the ones that are getting it. It's just crazy. And here we are. Trump authorized the National Guard for January 6th, but Congress and the D.C. mayor didn't request it. Because, see, D.C., thanks, Toddster, the District of Columbia is like its own state, okay? The mayor is all-powerful there. And they testified, Kash Patel and other guys had testified that the Capitol Police Deputy Chief responded that the request is not forthcoming after consultation with the Capitol Police Chief's son. So, you wonder why there wasn't any riot control. They didn't bring on any. I can't understand it. I just don't get it. Stella, what the? You're not drinking my soda. Since when do you like soda? And here we are. Canada and Ireland issue emission stand restrictions for farmers. Now, okay, do we want runoff into streams and rivers? Of course not, okay? We want the fertilizer to stay on the fields where it belongs. That's why lately, what do you call them? Most all farmers and tractors now have GPS units, and they have calculators in them that calculate the amount of NPK that they put on different crops. Because A, they don't want to waste any, and B, they don't want it to run off their fields and into the river to create a dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico or algae blooms in the Great Lakes or Lake Champlain. But yet, here today, I've seen them, they're emptying out their crap pits in these giant dairy farms again, and they're stinking the place up. I don't care so much about the stink, but man, it's supposed to rain tomorrow, and it'll run right off into the rivers and creeks. Because we don't have big enough buffer zones. Here we are. This has been the most expensive crop anyone's put in, following a very difficult year on the prairies, the Premier of Alberta said. Slashing fertilizer use by 20% could cost Canadian farmers more than $48 billion in lost sales due to lower yields by 2030. Synthetic fertilizer use is responsible for less than 2% of Canada's carbon emissions, and Canada is responsible for 1.4% of global emissions. 1.4%. Yeah. Ew, that's a lot, isn't it? The last round of carbon emissions target was pledged in COP26 last year. Scientists predict that growing emissions will cause more severe weather events such as storms and droughts, though historically the predictions haven't materialized. They haven't. They haven't. They've been screaming at the boys and girls, especially if there's any younger viewers out there. It's the same thing. When we were kids, the teachers were telling us, oh, the world's going to end in a nuclear holocaust. Well, it still could, and it didn't. And now they're telling you from grade school onwards that climate change is going to ruin the earth, you know, and by the time you grow up, you'll be dead. And here we are. This trans stuff is a fad. Listen to this. I won't read you the whole bunch of them, but this is like Dear Abby. It's called Dear Carolyn. Transfamilies.org. It's also great. My trans non-binary kiddo, my kiddo, is 5 and has clearly always felt that way. But there are many parents of teenagers in the group that were totally surprised. And hell yes to the support first, understand later point. Your kid gave you a huge gift by trusting you to protect that trust. You're going to let a 5-year-old kid who thinks he wants to be a mutant ninja turtle, you're going to let them have surgery and get sterilized? Are you people crazy? You're out of your frickin' minds. Our 22-year-old came out as a transgender woman 2 years ago. We never had an inkling. And she says she didn't know it at a young age. Well, thank God. I mean, at least when they're old enough, they can want their own surgery when they're old enough. They finally shook hands with themselves, as the old-timers used to say. Yeah. Let's see. My younger sister is a trans woman. She realized it when she was 33. I'm almost 40, trans non-binary. I only realized about 5 years ago. But yeah, no, puberty blockers, you can't even have a tattoo when you're a kid. Oh, and here's this woman, this poor Brittany Griner over in Russia. She wants the U.S. to help her get out of Russia. You know what? If you're traveling out of the country, leave your drugs at home, okay? And I'll tell you what, this woman has kneeled. She wouldn't stand for the anthem. She kneeled during basketball games and stuff like that. She hates this country. She goes over to Russia and tells the Russian people how horrible the USA is. Thanks, Todd. And yet now she wants the USA to help get her out of a Russian jail. Oh, suddenly the USA is looking better, huh, honey? She faces 10 years in the joint for transporting drugs. And it doesn't mention in here that she hates the USC either. Oh, here we are. Fed unleashes another big rate hike. This happened last week while we were doing the show. This is what happens. They come in, they print a boatload of money. See, because the Federal Reserve, it's not federal and there are no reserves. And here's old Joe, Geezer Joe here. Oops, sorry, Todd. Camera 2. Camera 2. Por favor, thank you. Yep, I'm so crooked. Oh, Dementia Joe. However, mask mandates have largely faded, you think? They come in, they print up a bunch of money, and then next thing you know, it causes inflation, so the Fed has no choice but to raise interest rates, which slows down the economy, throws it into a recession. That came out last Wednesday. 2 quarters of negative GDP growth is a recession. But now they're trying to redefine recession because, let's face it, if you can't tell what a man is or a woman is, why should we not know what inflation is? Here it is right here. GDP shrinks for a second quarter, and the reporters just put on their knee pads for Biden. It's insane. 4 years they spent going after Trump for every little stupid thing he did. And Biden's tearing the whole country down, and they're all like, oh yeah, consecutive quarters of falling GDP constitute one informal, though not definitive, indicator of a recession. It's the biggest indicator of a recession, you dopes. What, are you kidding me? And they quote many economists, oh sure, and significant banking personnel, oh right. Like I said, what banking personnel? The janitor? The tellers? The Inflation Reduction Act. What a joke. And here it is right here. Democrats allege Secret Service cover-up. And here's the head of the January 6th committee, Congressman Benny Thompson, a.k.a. Mr. Toad. There's him right there. There's Mr. Toad. You know, during the McCarthy hearings, they finally got fed up with it, and they said, have you no sense of decency, sir? Have you no sense of decency? Don't you? At long last, sir, have you no sense of decency? Well, see, Congress can investigate, yet they can't prosecute. Now, funny, you know, they said they're complaining about the Secret Service supposedly losing, when they switched over to new phones, supposedly losing a bunch of data or text messages. Yet, you know, there's no mention in here about Hillary Clinton losing 33,000 emails she had on a private server. Oh, that was okay. She was never prosecuted for that, even though she was Secretary of State and in contempt of Congress. She scoured her computers with bleach bit and had her people smashed up their phones. Oh, and don't you love this?
Sorry if I missed any camera cues. I got a call from my realtor while you were doing your show. So
yeah, how goes the battle?
It's going pretty good, I think. I'd try to sell my house on your show, but it might not be on the market by the time it airs.
Yeah, they're lining up out front of his house, man. Take a number, get in line. It's like a deli in New York City, man.
Kinda, yeah.
Anyways, don't you love this? Minnesota man, right? Minnesota man charged in deadly Wisconsin river attack. You know what the Minnesota man's name is, Toddster? Nikolai Amiu of Prior Lake attacked a group after people accused him of approaching children in the water. And so he retaliated by killing a teenager and stabbing 4 other people. That allegedly began with a lost cell phone during a tubing excursion on a river. Okay, you're getting into an argument, you stab one guy to death, then you slash and stab 4 more, right?
Well, cell phones are expensive.
Pardon me?
Cell phones are expensive.
Yeah, I guess so. How expensive is his lawyer going to be? And here's another one. What do they call it? A Southampton man that is going to trial. He got busted last year for being at the Queen's Palace or whatever with a crossbow, okay? You know what the Southampton's man's name is, Toddster? Jaswat Singh Chail.
All right.
Yeah, I remember
what I was
old
gonna
Jaswat Singh Chail. He was from the old Chail family, lived over in the next shire over. He was a Southampton man. Their family went back to the ancient Saxons, I believe. Just sit. Don't you chew on my hat. Don't you dare. Yeah, Democrats allege Secret Service cover-up. Oh, yeah. Oh, and here we are. You're going to love this. And local news, okay? They have all these crybaby stories. And this one, this was a Sunday's paper? Yeah. In the Sunday paper, it's a long-form article. And homeless in the heat. Okay, we never had this many homeless people in Vermont until the word got out that the state was putting up all these bums in the hotels. And then next thing you know, due to Facefucks and FACEFUX, Facefucks and all these other social media things, the word got out, and next thing you know, our homeless population doubled overnight. And funny, we don't know how many of them are actually Vermonters either. Well, they're here. That makes them Vermonters, right, Todd?
Yes.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So anyways, you start reading into the article, and then they talk about urban heat islands. And I start reading this article, and I think, I know where this is going. It's going to be blame Whitey Okay? Blame Whitey. How much time we got left, Todd?
Let me check. I got a timer going here. We got about 15 minutes.
Did you say you had to be out of here by 4?
No, 4:30.
4:30. Okay, we're on track. So anyways, I said, I know where this is going. It's going to go to be blame Whitey, okay? Because when you can't blame anyone else, you blame Whitey, right? All right. How the East Coast cities deal with the climate crisis. Oh, yeah. 35 newsrooms from New Hampshire to Florida speaking with regular people about real-life impacts, digging into the sciences and the government response, or lack of it. Well, not one of these people, not one of these so-called reporters actually went and talked with the Parks Department heads or the people who were responsible for planting trees for shade in these cities. Because you know what they would say over and over again? We plant the trees and these animals tear them up. Not for firewood, not for kindling, not for barbecue sticks. They tear them up because they can. Little kids get up in them and swing in the branches and break them before the trees even get a chance to get started. That's what they'd say, because I know people in the business. The climate crisis exacerbated the intensity of heat waves. Well, not really. There were bigger heat waves in the 30s. Let's see. Well, the average length of a heat wave is 50 studies, is now about 70 days compared to 20s in the 60s. In less than one lifetime, the heat wave season has tripled. Whoa! That's insane! Yeah, yada, yada, yada. Discrimination and made East Coast neighborhoods worse. The characteristics of living in neighborhood residential areas with little or no parks or tree shade, bordered by industrial areas, warehouses, highways, overpasses. The material remnants of an economic rating system over 100 years that disincentivized mortgage loans and devalued property. They created undesirable districts and redlining, yada, yada, yada. So this one reporter looked at the heat map and compared it with the red line districts, and the pattern repeated in every city across America. Rah! Let's see. Which areas should get investment or parks? Which areas have to be sacrificed for freeways? Well, we haven't built a freeway in like 50 years going through anywhere lately. What are you people talking about? On average, a person of color lives in a census tract with a higher surface urban heat island intensity than non-Hispanic white people in all but 6 of the 175 urban areas. Black residents had the most exposure to heat islands, followed by Hispanics. They joined hundreds of students huddled under a few trees. Well, like I said, they plant the trees and the animals tear them down. Yeah. Little growth has come from the end of ridgeline and not healthy in these spaces where land is cheaper and zoning fluid. Manufacturing sites, energy plants, and big box stores have sprung up. Big box stores! That's another thing. It's like over at the hospital. I mentioned this to the doctor a few weeks ago. You can't find any shade over there because the place is built in a gravel pit. You'd think they'd look around and say, oh, the native trees that live here are pine trees and red oak trees. Maybe we should plant pine or red oak in the parking lot. Oh, no. These geniuses go out and get crab apples, red maple trees, and what happens, Toddster? They get like 20 feet tall and tip over if they live that long. Shut up.
Right, because the soil's not real strong.
Pardon me?
Because the soil's not real strong, right?
Yeah, because it's a gravel banking, basically. Yeah. That whole area where the hospital is, it's a big gravel banking. From
I didn't know that.
Yeah, from the veneer plant over. It is one of the few places up here that has groves of red oak. I mean, rarely do you see red oak or white oak up here. But it's loaded with them over there. I've gone over there and actually dug them up. And next to our old building near Cumbies, there's a bunch of red oaks growing there, too. Will you shut up, Yappy? So whatever you got to do, you got to blame Whitey, man. Got to blame Whitey. Planting trees in heat islands can also have immediate impact that will only grow as increasing canopy creates more shaded areas, adding oxygen. Such changes can be implemented ahead of more complex structural changes to building codes for cooler buildings. Blame Whitey. Yep, blame Whitey. Whitey didn't plant enough trees. Or Whitey planted the trees, but our kids tore them down. Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, and here we are. This is from today's paper. We're finally getting a little truth about the Pew Crane, right, Toddster?
Yeah.
There's a picture here. I don't know if you can see it. A local resident, Oleksiy, 11 years old, with a plastic gun, salutes Ukrainian servicemen Tuesday as he plays at a self-made checkpoint not far from the front lines in the Kharkiv region of Ukraine. And it shows this 11-year-old kid. You know what his salute is, Todd? It's not like this. You know what his salute is?
Uh-oh. Oh, geez.
Yeah. It shows him right here. There he is right there. Hang on. I'll put this up for the camera.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if I can zoom up on that or not.
No, you can't. Put up here.
Oh, here we go. Center. Let's do center camera. That's a better camera.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
See that kid?
That's
Yeah, nice salute, huh, kid?
a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's normal.
Maybe he was dancing.
Yeah. That's not a Nazi salute, right? No. Will you get out of my chair? Get the hell down. Get out of there. Jeez, give them an inch and they want a mile. Yeah, here it is right here. They talk about, I'll get to this in the article. They mention a Nazi salute. They mention a far-right origins of the Azov battalion. Oh, and then they show the picture of the little kid saluting. Oh, how cute. What a great little kid. Yeah, here we are. Moscow has repeatedly portrayed the Azov battalion as a Nazi group, accused of atrocities. The regiment, a unit within Ukraine's National Guard, has a checkered history. It grew out of a group called the Azov Battalion. Formed in 2014 as one of many volunteer brigades assembled to fight the separatists. The Azov Battalion drew its initial fighters from far-right circles and elicited criticism for some of its tactics. Its current memberships have rejected accusations of extremism. Yet the Kremlin says it's a battle against Nazi influence. They've repeatedly shown what it claimed to be Nazi insignias. We've shown you pictures of the Azov Battalion's insignias. It remarkably looks just like the SS stuff from the Nazis. And mind you, these are the same people, their sons and daughters, or grandsons and granddaughters of the Ukrainians who lined up with the Nazis when they rolled in 41. And I know, my mother was there, okay? And, you know, I can't blame them. It's not that they love the Nazis. It's that they had more freedom under the Nazis than they did under Stalin. It was a lesser of two evils, trust me. So a lot of them went with the Germans, and they wound up, you know, headed east after World War II. That's what happened to my mother. Last week, dozens of Ukrainian POWs were killed in an explosion at the barracks at a penal colony, blah, blah, blah. And here we are. Ukrainian, every day. And the Ukraine is not a democracy, like we said. Yeah, here we are. Sting came out in Warsaw during a concert and badmouthed the Russians. An absurdity based upon a lie. He appeared to be referring to the justifications. The war in Ukraine is absurdity based on a lie, Stink said. If we swallow the lie will eat us, Stink said. He appeared to be referring to the justifications Russia tried for its invasion, including a Russian claim that it seeks to denazify Ukraine, a democracy led by a Jewish president. Oh, the guy's Jewish? His grandfather was Jewish. And you know, according to Hebrew law, you're only Jewish if it comes through the maternal lineage. If your mother was Jewish, you're a Heb. If your grandmother was Jewish and your mother was Jewish, then you're a Heb. If your grandfather was a Jew, that makes you a quarter Jew, and you're not really, according to the rabbis, you're not really a Jew. You can convert, but you're not really a Michelin like yours truly. But that's okay. That's okay. And here we are. Oh, blame the guns, not the nuts, as usual. I'm going to have gun control. Oh, sure. Fauci. Oh, my God. Oh, here we are. We are, let's see. On this day in history, this was Monday, the Olympics opened in Berlin with a ceremony presided over by Adolf Hitler in 1936. You know what else that was, Todd? A first?
What's that?
You remember that movie Contact with Jodie Foster?
I've never seen it, but I know what one you're talking about.
Oh, dude, you gotta see it.
Yeah?
Oh, it's a killer movie, man.
Huh.
But anyways, these people, these space people, they send us our first TV broadcast. The first TV broadcast that went off into space went out in 1936, and that broadcast was rigged by German engineers broadcasting Adolf Hitler opening the 1936 Olympics in Berlin.
Yee.
Yeah, okay. Oh, in this day in history, 1966, I remember this because I was 10 years old and I couldn't believe it. Charles Joseph Whitman, 25, went on an armed rampage at the University of Texas in Austin and killed 14 people, most of whom were shot by Whitman while he was perched in the clock tower of the main campus building. Whitman, a blonde, crew-cutted wacko, he killed his wife and mother hours earlier, was finally gunned down by police. What they don't tell you in this is that the people in Texas, the students at UT Austin, Todd,
Yeah.
they had their deer rifles in their trucks. So they went out to the parking lot and they got their deer rifles and they hid behind trees and stuff, and they kept Whitman pinned down on the clock tower so that the cops could go up there and kill him. Because he was shooting at the cops, you know. So you had all these students from Texas, they're all taking pot shots at the sniper up on the tower so the cops could take him out.
Yeah.
1966. Yeah, they don't mention that, do they? Oh, man. What else we got in history? I knew I had more. Oh, this one's from today, Wednesday.
You've got about 3 minutes left.
Okay, in this day in history, Christopher Columbus. Now, that's two first names. What does that usually mean, Toddster?
Generally, when I meet people that have two first names, they're kind of jerks.
Then you're anti-Semitic.
Oh, I don't mean it like that.
Usually, when you see someone whose name is like John George, or, you know, in this case, Christopher Colombo, Colombo being a first name, they think he was Jewish. Yeah? He set sail from Palos, Spain, because he was Italian. They think he was an Italian Jew, on a voyage that took him to the present-day Americas. In this day in history, Lenny Bruce died. Oh, and on this day in 2018, Las Vegas police said they were closing their investigation into the October shooting that left 58 people dead at a country music festival. We still don't know how or why this guy did this, or if he was the only shooter, but, you know, we'll just close up the investigation. We've learned all we can. You don't want to look backwards, you know what I mean? That's the past. It's like Jennifer Morrison, you know? Oh, and here we are. Harold Bluetooth. Burial site of Harold Bluetooth, namesake disputed. They actually used his name. This is last but not least. This is the last one. It turns out that Harold, the king of the Danes, he died in like 985. He Christianized. He converted the pagans, the Vikings, to Christianity, and so they knew he was buried in a cemetery, a consecrated cemetery. Well, it turns out the satellite revealed a round shape that looked like a Viking burial mound in Poland, but it was a church of the Wojcicki Church of the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And they were digging underneath it, it seems, in the 60s or 70s, they were 1986. The family moved to Sweden from Poland, and they brought this disc with them that they found in 1841 in the tomb underneath the church. And you know what it says on it? It's a little coin, a gold coin, and it says, Harold Gormison, King of Danes, Scania, Jormsburg, Town Oldenburg. So that's it for archaeology. It looks like they found Harold Bluetooth. Okay, little dog. Well, once again, you wasted a perfectly good hour of your life watching this stupid show, so hopefully we'll see you again next week. Good Lord will, and the creek don't rise. Inshallah, as the Hebrabs say. So until then, get down on your hands and knees in the men only mosque, sniff the bum of the guy in the man dress in front of you, head east towards the meteorite in Mecca, and pray and say, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Akbar.